Hey there, so in today's episode of Star Wars Talk, I will be ranking all the Star Wars films that have had a theatrical release. So this is my 2018 edition. There are some changes from my video that was a little over a year ago. So just so you know, in this video I'll be ranking them from worst to best, so from my least favorite to my favorite. This list was actually hard to compile because again, some of the films like, oh, where do they place and all that, but but this is probably what I best can get that. Well, anyhow, my least favorite and the worst film, in my opinion, is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. As I said in my video last year, I just did not like how the romance between Anakin and Padme was played out. Other than that, yeah, probably the best things was everything with Obi-Wan, pretty much. Anything with Anakin was kind of off-putting, and I really did not enjoy it too much, and that's probably why mainly. And awkward dialogue, but mainly everything between Anakin and Padme just took the film down so much. Well, in my next position is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I know for many people that's the least favorite and the worst film, but I really dislike how they force it down people's throat that that's the worst film that you have to skip. In fact, my biggest problem with The Phantom Menace is how it's out of place with the trilogy. It just introduces us to the characters. It feels more like a prequel to the prequels rather than the first installment of the prequels. A better prequel trilogy in my mind would have been really beginning more with what happened in Episode 2, but kind of cut out the galactic events, but the personal events still rewrite, and keep Episode 3 the same. You just gotta rewrite 1 and 2. It could have been done mainly during the Clone Wars, but that's my personal opinion. And speaking of the Clone Wars, that's in my next position. Star Wars: The Clone Wars was first released as a movie before the TV series. It's the only animated movie on this list. I'm only including it because it did get a theatrical release about over a month, like 2 months I think, after it was released on DVD, but it had a theatrical release, so it counts. And my biggest problem was how it was just 4 episodes pieced together as a movie. But it still, in my opinion, did a better job showing a lot of the prequel stuff than the actual prequels did. Quite ironically, don't you think? But this is okay, pretty enjoyable. Really, starting with this film and onward, even with the Phantom Menace to a certain degree, I can actually say I enjoyed the Star Wars films without really lying at all. So only Episode 2, I can honestly say I don't enjoy at all, except for the scenes of Obi-Wan, like the only things I enjoyed. But the Clone Wars, I think you get it a lot more, in my opinion. You don't have the annoying Jar Jar. Jar Jar was annoying because he was overused. If they cut down his screen time and dialogue, he probably would have been a much better character, but he was too over the top in his comedic elements, for my personal opinion. But after the Clone Wars is Revenge of the Sith. In my opinion, the best of the prequels, unless you count Rogue One as a prequel, because it is a prequel, but for prequel trilogy, it is definitely the best of that trilogy. Probably because the moments between Anakin and Padme is still present, but it's not over the top. Could be toned down a little bit, but it does help play into Anakin's characterization a lot more. Overall, it's pretty good. Some good space battles. Again, Obi-Wan is is probably one of the stronger characters in the film. He seems to be like the strongest character, except for Qui-Gon Jinn, pretty much in the entire prequel trilogy. So that's saying something in my opinion. But I did find that film to be overall pretty good. And my next one is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. I found this film to be very enjoyable. But there were things I didn't like about it, of course, but I did enjoy it for the most part. It was pretty good. The CGI Leia, I didn't care for. And it's not that her being CGI. It was the fact that she even bothered speaking, that they showed her face. I would have been content with Captain Raymond Tilly's handing her the plans, and that be it. I would have been content with that as the ship jumped to light speed. I would have been content with that. In my opinion, that would have been much better. In my opinion, she didn't need to say hope. Just they could have. That's like probably the only thing I would greatly change. But the CGI, I want to say, is in my opinion better than the CGI for Tarkin. Probably because she was only in one scene while Tarkin was in so many. It's hard to say, but if you want more of my thoughts for Rogue One, I suggest you go check out my review. It will be linked in the cards right about nowish. And so next is in my next position is Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Again, this one, in my opinion, isn't as strong as the first two in the original trilogy, but it's overall enjoyable. Most people criticize the Ewoks, but I had no problem with the Ewoks. In my opinion, it kind of shows that you don't necessarily have to be highly technological savvy to be able to defeat an enemy. It does draw some parallels to the Vietnam War, where guerrilla fighters were able to outwit the American military machine. And even going back to when you're going to, the Native Americans versus the U.S. military machine. Took the U.S. military machine quite a long time to defeat them. Not the best analogy, but it's actually probably more akin. The Empire came to Endor to take over Endor, take over the land, and use it to build the Death Star. That's more akin to the situation with the Native Americans than the situation with Vietnam. Just more akin, I gotta say. But I did enjoy the scene. It felt like it was almost two movies spliced together. You have the rescue of Han Solo, and then you have the Battle of Endor. They were separate, but they were separate in a good way, kind of thing. Like, hey, we gotta do this, but we need this character for that kind of thing. But it was kind of good to revisit Tatooine and show that just because the Galactic Civil War is going on doesn't mean everyone's actually taking a part of it. A good reminder, in my opinion, to that going on. But let's go to my next opinion, and The Last Jedi. So, I found this film overall enjoyable. You can check out my review of it in the cards around now. And I did find it enjoyable. I even in my review said it might have been the best Star Wars film. I've seen it twice in theaters, and I want to say that maybe it is the best, maybe it's not, but at these higher levels of pretty much once you get past all the prequels in Rogue One, and even Return of the Jedi, it's hard to say with Return of the Jedi, but it gets so hard to actually pick and choose. I seriously consider putting this before The Phantom Menace. And not of course, why did I say that? I meant, what I was trying to say is, I consider ranking this one higher than The Last Jedi. I even consider it higher than some other films that you see earlier. And by Last Jedi, when I said that, I meant to say The Force Awakens. I apologize for that slip of the tongue. But yeah, I found The Last Jedi to be pretty well enjoyable. There was nothing too jarring about it, in my opinion, except for maybe Vice Admiral Holder's decision to withhold information from Poe, but I won't get into that because I am planning on doing a video on that. If it's not out by the time you're watching this video, it should be out within 2 weeks. But that was the one thing I can criticize, besides maybe the Canter Bite. They could have done a bit more with Canter Bite to make it fit seamlessly, but I think a lot of stuff with The Last Jedi that I have now to talk about after thinking about the movie for over a month now is that they deserve a second video, so expect that as well. So let's move on from The Last Jedi to The Force Awakens. So this is in my number 3 favorite, number 3 best position, and the reason why I like this one so much is because of the familiarity. A good return to form after the prequels, a good reintroduction of the franchise to new fans and to old fans alike. The safe road was a good place to start. The Last Jedi could take chances because The Force Awakens did not. And I think that was why The Force Awakens for me was so good. It took elements from all the films, but put them in together to make them unique, and there's a new story going on. and but it's also playing on a lot of stuff from the old stuff, the older films as well. So that's what I really liked about The Force Awakens, just how well it does actually fit into the canon of the saga through the expanded universe. Still wish some of that was real, but oh, real again or canon again, but that's a whole nother video that I probably will never create. But bug me if you want it. But yeah, The Force Awakens I did enjoy a lot. I think part of the reason why I held it in such high regard uh, is and the fact that I placed it over a original series, original trilogy film, is because it was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. The first movie I ever saw was Return of the Jedi, but The Force Awakens was the first one I saw in theaters, and that will stay with me probably forever, in my opinion. Just something that it would just always stay with me. So I was actually old enough probably to see. I could have seriously seen all of the prequel trilogy, but I was too young when the Phantom Menace came out. Attack the Clones, I hadn't even heard of Star Wars yet. By Revenge of the Sith, I had heard of Star Wars, but I wasn't into Star Wars yet. It was around 5th grade for me when I really started watching Star Wars. Roughly around that time. I won't give you any years, but it was after Revenge of the Sith came out, so that had to give you a ballpark on when I was in 5th grade. But now that I've talked about The Force Awakens, how it being my first Star Wars film in theaters, it holds a special place in my heart. I'll move on to my second best, Empire Strikes Back. And then my number one is A New Hope, as you figured. I would kind of say that it was actually hard to decide where these two would go, and instead of just me reiterating what I said last year, I would just be inserting that clip into this video at this point. Empire Strikes Back. Probably most of you were anticipating this in my number one spot, which is actually going to go to Star Wars A New Hope, or as it was least, Star Wars. It was hard to determine which of these two would go in the first place. I ended up going with Star Wars A New Hope over Empire Strikes Back, simply because Star Wars A New Hope was the movie that started it all. Star Wars A New Hope was the only movie in the entire Star Wars sagas so far I should say, that you could watch totally by itself without needing any of the other movies to understand it. It was produced to be by itself, because George Lucas did not know if he would be able to produce any more Star Wars films at all. Split into the Mind's Eye. That's a book. It was actually originally intended to be adapted into a movie, but no. Star Wars performed super well at the box office, yada yada, toy sales and all that. So George Lucas was able to produce The Empire Strikes Back, probably one of the best, if not the best, sequels in movie history. If we had Splinter the Mind's Eye, I don't know, it's a good Star Wars story from what I understand, but it's not. I don't think it would have made a good movie like Empire Strikes Back did. It probably would have been a direct-to-video sequel too. But no, Star Wars performed so well it warranted a theatrical sequel that some argue that it outperforms its predecessor. I myself didn't know which is better, so I put this here and I went with Star Wars A New Hope in the number one place, simply because it's the movie that started it all. So there you have it, my rankings for the Star Wars films as of January 2018. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Also comment down below. Do you agree with my ranking of the Star Wars films? And if not, what's your ranking of them? You don't have to include the Clone Wars animated movie if you want, but you can if you will. And you can even include things like the Holiday Special and the Ewok TV movies if you so desire. I'll be reviewing them someday, but just kind of want to sort that stuff out. But let me know what you think about my ranking and what is your personal ranking. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, subscribe to this channel for future Star Wars content, and also consider supporting me on Patreon. Your donations there will help make this channel possible. Well, thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please leave a like. I probably said that before, but I'm just end with this. Consider following me on social media, and as always, have a good day and good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.